and welcome to the chat. It is Colette and Matt entering the chat. I am but one half of this dynamic duo. I am Matt Silverman. I am joined, as always, in the chat by Colette Bennett.
Hey!
Hello. Welcome back to your show.
What's the... Thank you. What's the noise that AOL used to make when someone would come online? Was it a door opening? Is that right? I almost feel like there should just be like a door opening noise, like when we start.
That is so oh my God, why have I not created a soundboard with AOL Instant Messenger?
Dude, I mean, I remember the door, but I feel like if you played me any of the other ones, or oh my God, when you randomly hear the ICQ, that always blows my mind because I'm like, oh my God. I used ICQ a lot in
ICQ
late 90s,
passed me by. Yeah, no, AIM was the place for the teens, and just I'm sure you have this memory too, but just hours and hours just chatting with the friends you just saw, at school, and then hearing the door close was like, well, that conversation's we're done here. You know what I mean? That person left, they disconnected, right?
Well, that sounds really nice, but I didn't have any friends at school, so I don't know what that experience was like. You think I'm kidding, don't you? Why do you think I became an introverted video gamer?
I mean, all right. So what? So with the ICQ stuff and the AIM stuff, are these internet strangers or not? You're not really spending too much time there.
No. I mean, I definitely was, but I mean, yeah, I was, hanging out in forums and chat rooms and finding people to talk to. And I even remember, God, if this is not an amazing blast from the past, that I used to buy this goth magazine. I don't remember what it was called, but it had a pen pal section in the back. And I ended up
really
becoming pen pals with a guy who to this day, I still know. And it has been 20 some odd years since that.
I love that.
I know, I do too. Because I don't know, there was something very sweet, kind of lovely about that type of thing. It's, something that, I mean, I guess it could technically happen if someone, on Reddit was like, hey, let's write letters to each other. People do it. But in that time period, it was more, I don't know. Normal might not be the right word. I'm sure people would have still thought I was weird if they knew that I had written to a stranger. But I don't know. I wanted to meet humans that liked things I liked.
Yeah. Yes, that was, I mean, we are spoiled by living in a time where you can connect with people who like things you like almost instantaneously. There is I don't want to call it a subculture, or a movement, but there are websites and networks that are about pen pals now, and it's hey, this is different from Twitter or Discord. This is not instantaneous. I think it's called Get a Pen Pal. We interviewed the developer of it
nice.
on the other show at work, and it's I believe it is digital. You're not exchanging addresses with people, but you hit send, and it takes 2 days for the message to be delivered. So it's it encourages this slow, hey, there may not be much to talk about 30 seconds from now, but in 2 days, there will be something to reply to or to look forward to. And I get it.
Yeah. It was a thing that was awesome at the time. And we have plenty of things now that are awesome also in their time. So I hope to never be that person who, when I get older, I turn into... when in my day things were better. I don't ever want to be that person,
No, I don't want to be that person, but I also really enjoy just getting nostalgic about AOL Instant Messenger sound effects. I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's semiotics or if there are other terms for it, but it's the feelings that you get within environments, and that those are real nostalgic feelings for like, oh, like you've talked about browsing in the bookstore or being in a library or being in, grandma's kitchen, like tactile things and smells and visuals and stuff. But this stuff also applies to software environments. And I just really love and geek out about remember what the buttons looked like, and remember the sounds they made, like you were saying, in Windows, Windows 3.1 or Windows 95. Like we collectively are having moments together about these experiences. And we can, millions of people on the internet are like, yeah, I also remember the AOL sound. And I just find that remarkable.
Man, I just realized nostalgia. That it would be hilarious to like change my text message noise either to the or to the opening door. I think that would be hilarious.
The chime for the incoming messages. The door was people coming online, door opening, people leaving online, door closing, but then the messages.
Yeah, what was the message noise?
Something like that.
Okay. This is going to be something I Google after this conversation.
I need to make a whole soundboard. Yeah, I need to do this for this show and others too. It's going to be really good.
We do an entire podcast episode where everything is done in AIM format.
Big fan. We did not get together last week, and honestly, I would say the world of video games has suffered for it. It was a horrible week because we were not there to talk about the most important thing. But today we're going to talk about what we've been playing, because I think we both have a lot to share. I'm very eager to talk about what I think you are going to talk about. And we're going to talk about what you're playing. The listeners, lots of great chatter in the Discord tonight. And we're going to also talk about our game of the year, I think.
Ooh.
Which is Waves of Death. what we came upon by spinning the Steam roulette wheel. But we'll get to that. Before we dive into Discord, any other thoughts here before we jump in?
Let's take the plunge.
Let's take the plunge. It's time for a little segment we like to call Video Games That Are Being Played. Still workshopping the segment title, okay?
Video games that perhaps we have put hands on in this past week or two. I mean, why not? It can be awkward. Why not?
Yeah,
but speaking of games being played, holy shit. Like, you asked in the Discord today, like, what people have been playing. And I am used to, like, a small handful of people being like, oh, this or that. And I'm like, cool. It's always nice to hear from someone. Today it was like every single member of our community was like, hey. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, y'all are
There's a lot going on.
But it's great because I personally always find it interesting to have a gathering of people where, like, everyone kind of is like, oh yeah, I'm playing this. And you get to kind of see that wide breadth of different styles that each person. Because, it's like when you think about your gaming habits, you really only know your own intimately.
Yes. Yep.
So it's like, oh, it's kind of cool to be like, oh, like, Juan Solo's, which my brain didn't get that was a Han Solo reference until I read it aloud just now. So
me neither, but amen. That's great.
That's a great name. Juan Solo's was like, yeah, a friend gifted me Phasmophobia, and it was like more fun than I thought. And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, like, Phasmophobia is super rad. And then, like, other community members were like, oh, I'm like our friend Randy was like, I'm playing, No Man's Sky. And Dick McVengeance was like, I'm playing Dreamscaper. Like, it's such a wide variety of different games. And the other thing I really like about hearing people just kind of weigh in and say, oh yeah, this is like what I was playing this week, is that it might lead me to games that I might miss.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. It's that, and it's also not just what people are playing, but sort of why they're playing it. And there's a lot of folks who are saying, oh, I'm going back to this, or I like this game because, and that makes me want to play different kinds of things. Phasmophobia or Phantasmophobia, I'm loose on.
It is Phasmophobia because I have friends who play it and they nickname it Phasmo.
Okay. Phantasmagoria is an old
yes, that's a classic.
Point and click ish 3D classic, and that's a different story. Phasmophobe, is this the co-op sort of your ghost hunting with friends, or am I
No, that's
attributing?
Completely correct. You start out, or you did start out, I should say. There's been an update, so I'm not sure if this is still consistent, but you start out in a little van that's all set up with all your ghost stuff. Kind of think about yourself as the Ghostbusters, but a lot less cool and in a van, and no uniforms.
It's okay. Hear me out. It's Ghostbusters, but it's in a van. What do you think?
And not cool. I mean, that's going as far as to say the Ghostbusters themselves were cool, which, let's face it, they were all giant nerds, which is why we love them so much.
Ghostbusters is fantastical, but this vibe of like my supernatural equipment in the van feels more like Ghost Hunters or whatever that bullshit show is.
That definitely is probably a better comparison, I would say, than me saying Ghostbusters.
Is that the vibe that this game is trying to capture? Is that?
I mean, in my opinion, yes. So
because I have neither seen the game nor seen that show, but my cultural milieu adjacentness is like, okay, this is what it is. But of course, in the game, I assume the real shit can go down, and that's where the fun
very real shit can go down. Like I've seen some ghost hunting games before, so I was exposed to Phasmo because some members of a fellow streamers community played it, and they invited Patrick, my husband, to play it. And so he came in here and got all set up because this is our computer room, and so he's like playing, and I'm, I think, in the bedroom, which is next door, like reading a book or something, and I just hear the man just like definitely, and like, you know, like when men scream so loud that they kind of like, you can't really tell if they're men or women anymore. And I was like, wow, this must be really scary. But like, you can't play it unless you play it with, I think two might be the minimum, but you're really better off with a little bit more than two people.
Yeah, you need a team, you need a squad.
Right. So I didn't have anybody to play it with, you know, like I needed friends to play it with because I didn't want to just hop on and just, you know, pair up with randos. I don't even know if you can do that. Can you pair
up with randos, or is that not even?
No, okay. I'm not sure if you can. But
and additionally, though, this is VR enabled, or no? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
You know, I'm honestly not sure. I feel I have a flicker of memory that says that it is, but I tell you what, I don't think I could handle this game in VR because like I have a bad track record of VR and horror anyway. But like this particular game, like. When the ghost comes for you, like, and there's more than one, but like when the ghost comes for you, like that shit is real as hell. And you're just like, oh my God, like it, even having seen other people, seen streams of other people encountering like the spirits and like dealing with them. Like when it happened to me, I was extremely like taken aback. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And so wait, two additional questions. One, like, are you just trying to avoid the ghosts, or are you trying to capture them? What is the goal of the co-op?
It's kind of like a capturing thing. Basically, like you have to use certain objects in order to not exercise, but kind of like, God, I can't remember now because it's been a while and I've only played it one time myself. But I know that you're going in with like certain things like a flashlight and like, oh, I have to take this object. And I do know that there is like a certain order of things that you have to do. And I think that the goal is the goal to cleanse the house? Okay, I just looked it up on my phone because I was too curious. So yes, it has virtual reality support.
Okay.
It's a 4-player online co-op game.
Yep.
It's up to you and your team to use all the ghost hunting equipment at your disposal in order to gather as much evidence as you can. So it's about gathering evidence, not necessarily saving yourself.
You're trying to stay alive to prove that the house is haunted, but if you die, then you're dead. Okay. And I feel like I was hearing people like on a podcast talk about it. Are there mechanics where like if you get got, do you turn into a ghost or you turn into a rat, or is this something
that I'm not aware of? That might happen. I literally was never caught by a ghost because what happened to me was I ran into one ghost, I screamed, and then
you pulled the plug
playing,
out of the wall.
I think. Yeah, like I really did not It really did not last.
I mean, that's I don't know if that's high praise or not from a bona fide horror fanatic. Like,
I mean, yeah, I definitely, like, if someone's like, is it a good game? I'm like, yes, I absolutely think it is a terrific game. But yeah, that said, I do think, like, if I had like a Friday night league of people that I really like that were like, let's do some Phasmo, I would do it again. But I don't really have those people. So that's the only reason why I'm not regularly doing it. But I do think it's a pretty terrific game.
I'm so fascinated by games that really require the team, that really require the squad. And it's, there aren't a ton of them.
And it does say here up to 4. So I think you could play with 2, maybe.
Okay.
But, so like technically I could, like, okay, let's just say that the Steam Deck was in the house already. Like, my husband and I could both play, and we probably will. There will be games that we want to play together that we can't play together on PC because we have one PC
that's
right
interesting.
now. Yeah, that's so that should be really, really fun, I think, when that comes around.
Yep. So Docky says playing Wildfire, which I was not familiar with.
No, me either.
Docky says amazing 2D stealth game like Mark of the Ninja, which is, you have my attention. Have you played Mark of the Ninja?
Never.
Great game. Highly recommend. It might even be out for Switch these days. I don't know, but I remember playing it on PC. Just, moving through 2D levels and really mechanically being rewarded. Like, you're a ninja, so you don't have guns, I don't think, but you can go in balls out and just wreak havoc, but it's much more strategic to sneak around and quietly kill in the dark. But Docky says, except you have witch powers. So like 2D stealth game with magic powers sounds pretty rad.
And he says
I gotta look this up.
Thoughtful missions such as returning the remains of bodies to desecrated coffins. That's really cool. I actually pulled it up on my phone just now, and oh my God, this game is so pretty. Also, it has a free demo.
Fuck yeah. Great.
Fuck yeah.
Great.
I will say this. I want to give Docky a shout out because, like, always and forever, like, the suggestions that Docky gives are usually things I've never heard of that I find fascinating.
Yep.
So pretty awesome. And if listeners are listening to this and going, who the hell is that? That is one of our community members in our Discord, which we will talk about a little later if that's something that you guys would like to know more about. But
yes, some
fine people in that Discord.
Fine folks. Docky also mentions Webbed. Have you seen this thing?
No.
Is spiders. 2D spiders, but cute spiders. And you can shoot webs and swing around, and it looks great.
I'm trying to load it. I'm trying to load it on my phone, and of course my phone doesn't want to load it. I see the picture, but let's see.
I guess it's, you play as a spider who's trying to save her boyfriend spider, and Docky's saying you spin webs to sort of traverse the environment. You're solving puzzles. You're transporting objects, and it's really pretty. It's really cute, but it also mechanically looks very dynamic, and that caught my eye as well. So that's
is precious
on the list for sure.
I love
the
it.
Look of it.
Awesome. That's really, really awesome. So Pyrostar mentioned Persona 5 Royale, which is terrific, and that they were at the added content part of the game, which was quite extensive. Yes, Persona 5 Royale is even bigger and longer and has more stuff to do in it than Persona 5, the regular one. So right. Yes, if you would like to lose yourself in an incredibly well-crafted Japanese RPG, that is definitely a highly recommended one, I must say. So glad to hear that that someone's getting so much out of it. But Dick McVengeance mentioned Dreamscaper, and he said the difference in pacing and action between this and Hades is wildly different, which my first thought was, oh, okay, interesting. I didn't really realize they had similarities as game types, but I know Dreamscaper, all I know about Dreamscaper is that it's on my wish list. and that the premise sounds like something I would absolutely love. But beyond that, I'm not 100% sure that I know a ton about it. It's okay. Roguelike, dynamic ARPG roguelike blending elements from brawlers, top-down shooters, and dungeon crawlers.
Okay, yeah.
Every slumber is a different dungeon, and you must unlock the power of your dreams to see a new day. That sounds awesome.
Yep, and it looks great too.
I need to put that on my higher on my to-do list. So yeah.
Randy says, running the New Frontier update for No Man's Sky. It's a broken game, but I still like it. I always wait for the bugs to get ironed out whenever there's an update. And then, I think I talked about it here. It's truly one of the most important games to me personally. I've had a long history with it, and I was playing something else, and I was like, you know what? I want to play No Man's Sky instead. And really enjoyed seeing content I had not seen before, but you have to do to start over, you have to do so much stuff that you've already done in order to uncover and piece together the cool new stuff. And I don't know, I just couldn't. It's a symptom of our time and of my neuroses about like wanting to play lots of other things. I was like, okay, if I want to see all the new stuff, I'm going to have to put 80 more hours into this thing, and 50 of those hours will basically be stuff I've already done. And I could not extrapolate those two. Yeah. And it's really not a criticism of the game. I'm not saying don't do that. If you have never played No Man's Sky, please play it, because it is so big. It's just so big. And I've actually read this criticism recently. It might even be too big, and it shouldn't be. Like this game is made to be too big, but systems wise, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to build a base? Well, that's 80 hours of like unlocking materials and base parts and doing, and that's awesome. But do you want to like tame animals and have pets? Well, that's a whole separate 20-hour thing. And like, it's like the game is like, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this. And you're like, I want to do everything. And that's 1,000 hours of things to do. And that is too much unless this is your game. When I was making like cinematic stuff inside of the game, which I'm really proud of, the project that came together around that, but I was in the game in creative mode. This was years ago, and figuring out how camera systems worked and sort of how like certain mods were working to like achieve the effects I wanted to achieve. And I hopped into a server or a lobby or whatever, and I was in there coincidentally with another guy who was making cinematics inside No Man's Sky. And we were just like chatting, and I was like, oh yeah, do you mind just like hanging out so I can like take advantage of the multiplayer so that the game doesn't pause when I turn on like photo mode? He's like, yeah, no, totally. I'm actually doing the same thing. That's so weird. I'm like, yeah, wait, you're doing that? I'm doing that. So we ended up being Steam friends, and I made my thing and kept in touch with him. He made his thing, which came out great, kept in touch with him. So we're still Steam friends. And every time there's a new update, I see this gentleman logging into Steam to play. And I click on his profile, 1,000 hours of No Man's Sky. And I'm like, nice, good on you. I know I don't know him personally, but I've chatted with him enough through email over time to know that he loves this thing as much as I love it, but he really loves it. And he goes back every time there's an update and probably puts those 200 hours back into every update. And, I respect it. I admire it. I can't imagine you are playing other things on top of that. Right. But that's okay. Like, if this is your jam, then that is, what a gift. Like, imagine if our brains could be like, yeah, I play Madden. That's my game every year. That's all I play.
Yeah, I've talked to another community member about this who loves Destiny. And I'm like, that would be so cool if there was like a game that I always wanted to go back to. I can say that there's a couple franchises that I always go back to, but like a game that I've gone back to for years and years and years, I don't have that.
but you shy away from live service games, and Destiny is that, and
Right,
the
that's
Sea
true.
of Thieves is of the world. Like those are created to be that. No Man's Sky did not set out to be that, and now it is in a very in a buy it once on sale on Steam and get new content forever. There's no microtransactions. There's no there's not really seasons, but there are live events that Randy is saying that he's taking part in.
Right.
It is now a live service game, so I understand 1,000 hours in this game. I get it, and it's also very social because all the things, the cosmetics that you earn, some of them are unique to periods in time. It's like, yeah, I earned this thing, this cool plant decoration that now I can have in my base, and then when people visit my base, which is a cool social thing to do, they're going to see my cool thing that I got from Frontier, or what do you call it? Expedition 4 or whatever. And I get that. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, one thing that would be, I think, interesting to me would be to like have a game that the world and like the stuff that you do in the world appealed to me enough to where I wanted to go back and I wanted to see those live events happen.
Right.
I would like that, to see something
and
like that.
The Final Fantasy 14s of the world, we've discussed this, that they're not that for you, even despite you being a big JRPG.
Yeah, I
fanatic.
tried. They're just not quite right for me. Like, I mean, if someone wants to make some sort of like live service horror game, like I will be there so fast.
Interesting.
But like, trying to navigate like a haunted world or something. I mean, like, I think stuff like that might be appealing to me, but it would just have to be the exact right thing.
Could ongoing live service horror even exist? Because I think the structure of horror is like, what's going to happen to this character? Oh, this denouement,
right.
This moment, this. It's not just jump scares. It's tension, and you can't hold tension for 800 hours.
How do you create tension for a long period of time? I almost feel like it might look something like maybe it would have like horror themes, but it would almost look something more like kind of a haunted situation, like trying to like do big quests to like rescue and free the souls of ghosts, like ancient ghosts or something. And
totally.
like, that could be doable, I guess. It just depends on what it would be, but like, oh my gosh, I have definitely tried. Like the Mist folks, they had an online live service game called Uru once. I tried playing that. Like, as much as I love that series, I couldn't get into that. Like the right thing has just not come, and if it ever comes, hey, cool. It might. I will remain open-minded that perhaps one day something could scratch that itch for me in that way.
This is making me think about an online co-op. I mean, I guess Phasmophobia is this a little bit, but not quite. It's like, well, you might know. Let me ask you. Like an online co-op Ghostbusters game, but it's in the mold of Destiny or Deep Rock Galactic or Sea of Thieves, where you're logging in an hour a night and you are grinding, and the more ghosts you capture or the more quests you unlock, you get better gear or better cosmetics. And you're not playing as the Ghostbusters, you're playing as, up and coming supernatural wranglers.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
And it doesn't have to be Ghostbusters. So my question there is like, does Phasmo have progression, or do you start fresh every time?
You start fresh every time is what I know. But once again, I know a very small snapshot. So it may be that there's a lot more and I just don't know it yet.
Yep.
So
it's a delicate balance. Making those games work long term is an amazing feat. Like I so admire it, because like if you're hooking me for 200 hours and I want to go back every night to get the next thing, and not because it's like a slot machine addiction, but more because it's like, this is really fun and I really want to see the next thing and the next thing. That's an extraordinary form of media that must be hard to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, a living, breathing world that you always have to constantly. Yeah. But I mean, in another way, I think that could be great fun. depending. So
we'll find something. We'll find something for you one of these days.
One of these days.
Life Force Kyle says, I'm picking up Hades again after months and months away. Yeah, I know. And someone else was saying, Juan Solos, it says Hades has been added to my pile of shame, unfortunately. That's me. And the more I go through Switch games, the more I'm making my way through a variety of Switch games and setting a few others aside because they run like shit. And I'm looking at my sort of situation, and I will be needing another Switch game soon. And there's something suddenly in my brain. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to return to Hades. And so it sounds like I'm not alone. Life Force Kyle is maybe having a similar experience here.
It certainly could be. I mean, I would encourage everyone to return to Hades, but once again, like we talked about this before, it's like if it hits the right groove for you, cool. But like it's just not going to do that for everybody. But try, Yeah. I mean, you'll see soon enough. I think if you feel frustrated after a few playthroughs, then maybe that's your answer. Right. But you never know. You might be like, ooh, okay.
As discussed, I didn't dislike it. I really liked it and just couldn't stick. Desreal says, I've been playing the new season of Fortnite. Yeah, gamer confession. I've never played Fortnite.
Oh, and me not either.
Because it's so every once in a while I'm just walking around being like, I should just try it just to understand what is
just
going on.
Just to understand something. But I feel like, and it's funny to go back to the live service game piece. It's like, I almost feel as if you would have had to be in the community for longer to really grasp.
I wonder about that.
Yeah. Like, not to say you couldn't just hop in and try something and find it fun, but like, I feel like when games get to be a bigger thing like this, like a living, breathing community, that sometimes I feel like I've missed too much,
I feel that. Fortnite is certainly exponentially bigger than Sea of Thieves, but Sea of Thieves had 3 seasons before I joined. And now when I read about or watch or listen to content from veteran players, they're like, oh yeah, back then we only had this and this, but now we have all this. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually playing this game at a really wonderful time where there's so much to do and so many systems to learn. And so I guess by that, I mean, I don't feel like I missed out. I feel like, yeah, this is the time to play. I don't know if that's the same for Fortnite, but like, I have to imagine that Fortnite's one and only goal is retain players and make sure new players who are like, what's up with Fortnite, are instantly hooked. So I don't know that you'd have any trouble accessing that content, but again, I know nothing about
I know diddly
Fortnite. Squat. And tangentially related, I don't know why, we might talk about this a little bit later too. I am itching. I'm not a shooter person, but I don't know why. I'm like, I want to like play something twitchy competitive again. I've been dipping in and out of Squadrons, but Squadrons is a ship game. It's a very different. I have not played a like let me get cool guns and shoot. I mean, Titanfall 2 was a wonderful campaign, but as I played through that, I'm like, yeah, maybe what if I tried Apex Legends? What if I just like checked it out, And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've been watching a little Twitch here and there of Apex, and everyone's like, yeah, Apex Legends is the shooter competitive game to play. Like Fortnite's Fortnite, but Apex is the game.
Is the game.
Oh, okay. And also Splitgate. Have you seen Splitgate? Everyone keeps calling it Halo with portals, like Halo plus Portal. And Splitgate is like, it's multiplayer arena combat. I guess you're trying to be the last player standing, or maybe it's squads, but you shoot guns, of course, but you can also shoot portals. So you shoot a portal in a wall, then you run somewhere else and shoot a portal, and then you can stand by the open portal and just like snipe people through the wall. And it's very, from what I'm reading and seeing, it's very like you can quickly disorient people by you're just running through the world looking to shoot players, and all of a sudden you get shot through a wall, and that's how the game works, because it's like you have a portal gun essentially, and that premise is super compelling if you like twitchy shooters like that. I have not dabbled, but it looks cool, and it I think it's only the developer has just begun. Like the game got so popular that their servers needed to get upgraded pretty quick, and so they're like, whoa, we didn't expect this, we're working on it, and the game is like 25% finished, and people are like, yes, give me more, loving Splitgate. So I don't know, I'm thinking about those two. Apex is free, so that's certainly an easy way to hop into something. But anyway, just thinking out loud about this kind of stuff.
Interesting. I really don't think that Returnal counts as a twitchy shooter, but it really feels like one sometimes.
Where are you there? Have you continued, or have you hit the wall yet? Exasperated sigh.
I am literally ashamed to say on this podcast how many times I have run through the first biome. I basically have it memorized now. So it's a matter of the boss of the biome has 3 levels of attack. So like you have to get rid of the health bar of the boss 3 times. I have survived rounds 1 and 2, but I have yet to survive round 3. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know about Returnal is that it is that don't already play it, is that it is essentially a bullet hell game the further you go.
Yeah.
So like his last level, his last attack pattern, I guess you would say, is just it is bullet hell, and you know how it is, right? It's like one wrong move, and you're dead, and you lost everything, and you have to go back to the beginning.
I thought you had advanced to the second biome, but maybe you were talking about different segments of the game.
I think the last time you and I talked about it, I thought I was about to advance to the next biome. I was like, I think I got this. And then like I had my ass like kicked a few more times. But yeah, like I think it was interesting because I felt like I was in that groove where like you're playing it and you're like, oh yeah, this is perfect. Like this is exactly what I'm feeling it. And then I think when I got to a certain number of repetitions, I was like, okay, I'm just frustrated at this point. Like, I know I can do it. It's not a matter of if I can do it or not. It's a matter of, will all the right elements come together for one run where I beat this? Yeah. And then after I beat it, what happened? Like, you only have to beat each boss once. So one plus is that
was my next immediate question. Like, once you overcome this, that is an achievement, and then you can move on. Right.
So like I'm now at a point, and one thing that they did do smartly was that as you move through a biome, you have like little teleport points you open up. So what I don't know, and I'm sure I could find this out with a very rudimentary Google search, is if you kill your boss in your biome and then you move on to the next biome and you die there, like, do you have to run through the first biome completely on foot, or have you then kind of like opened up like a permanent like is it how hard is it for you to jump forward into the next biome? Do you have to walk back through all that stuff?
And if the boss is gone and you don't have to hit that wall, then like, okay, zipping through the first one that you know by heart might get tedious, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? If you had to.
Like I think I just, to be honest with you, I think I got hyper focused on it and just played it over so many times that it was too many times. But the funny thing is I'm talking to you here, I'm like, well, it's still kind of early. Maybe tonight I could just try to.
Yeah.
So I was trying to give myself a few days break just because it was frustrating how many times I tried. But I don't think I'm ready to give up yet. You know how that you hit that moment and you're like, no, fuck no, I'm not there. I think I'm just taking a breather.
In a way, though, the time scale is much more compressed. Returnal is to Hades as Hades is to Returnal for you and me. Meaning, like, we both hit our walls, and then we're like, took a break. And I wasn't sure if my break was like, I'm done forever, or if it was like, can't do this.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean,
yeah.
it's like a weird little itch sometimes, like, oh, maybe I should go back to that. And I think there have been times that stuff has called me back and then it's clicked.
Yes.
It does happen sometimes. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're still feeling the pull to go back, because it really sounds and looks like an extraordinary game. Like it looks, the way you talk about it, you're like, I am really having fun when I'm in it. I just, can't get past this part for some reason.
Yeah. And like, I have to say that I think one thing for me is that like, I'm tempted to be like, oh, well, I'm tempted to beat myself up about it. Like, oh, well, you're not a very skilled gamer and you always have known that, blah, blah, blah. So like, if you were more skilled, you could do this more quickly. And it's like, I have to always go back and continue to tell myself when that inner voice comes up, like, I'm not a competitive gamer. I don't have to like play for money. Like I can literally be any kind of gamer I want. And just because it's taking me much longer, that doesn't mean that I can't still enjoy my game, even if it, like we shouldn't be judged whether it takes us 5 tries or 50 tries to get there.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying yourself, so I'm trying to be not so hard on myself about it.
No, I mean, right. What are you here for? Are you here to be a speedrunner, like to be the best at something, and then man, I'm failing at it? Or are you here to enjoy a game? And like hitting a wall over and over again starts to wear on the enjoyment. That's my issue. But like beating yourself up about a skill is silly.
Yeah, well, I wish I could tell that to my inner critic, but I'm working. Let's just say I'm working on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Especially in a non-competitive context. Like I played 2 rounds of Squadrons last night and got decimated by another team that seemed to be, it wasn't a team of randos, it seemed to be a squad of people who were squatted up, and they were I don't know how much you can relate if you have not played much competitive, but it's like you play against other humans and you're like, oh, I know, okay, this guy's going here, blah blah blah, and then you play against certain humans and you're like, I can't even get out of the hang, like I can't even start playing because these guys are so good. And so that those moments are like, fuck, I don't have enough skill to play this round, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess I don't really seek out single player games that are like super like I just stay away from like brutal platformers. Like I just don't want to do them because I know that will be unfun.
I always
sooner or later
also stayed away from like harder games. And like when I started getting into Pistol Whip, I didn't think of it. I mean, I thought of it as a challenging game, but I didn't think of it as like a Dark Souls type of game. And it's not. I mean, it's a challenging game, but yeah, I wouldn't call it that. But like that was the first game, and I think I've talked about this in the podcast before. That was the first game ever where I was like, I hit walls, and instead of just giving up and just, rage quitting, I basically was like, okay, I'm going to do it again. I want to learn how to be better at it. And I did it so much and I saw such massive improvement that I was like, wow, so much of being quote unquote good at a game is practicing and learning from where you made your mistakes. And so
it's extraordinary that I'm so compelled by like, what is it about, and we talked about this, what is it about one game, Pistol Whip, that motivated you to get to be the best you could be? But Dark Souls was like, as an example,
I've never even booted up Dark Souls. It just didn't look appealing to me.
Similar. But like as that example of like, I get what Dark Souls is. I respect anyone who does it, but like I don't want to do the same boss fight 60 times to learn every, frame of movement. Like I don't want to do that.
Well, that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. And then I started playing Hades, and then I was like, I just don't know why. I don't know, man. Maybe it's the
So
itch.
interesting.
Maybe it's the same itch that people who do love and play Souls games have talked about, and I just never
Yeah, it must
understood
be.
it until now, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, I have
So
to assume
there's an
that's what it
aesthetic.
is.
There's an aesthetic or a mechanical reason why Hades and Pistol Whip you saw that through, but other games we say no thanks. I don't know. I just find that really interesting.
It is really interesting to me, and like I kind of wonder if I would have played Returnal in the same way, like even a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't really know that I would have, because
that's a great point.
Yeah, like I mean, honestly, Pistol Whip really did change me as a gamer. Like that chemistry of me and that game together. It just made me, and I would say that it made me a more confident gamer. Like even playing Returnal, there was a point not that long ago where all, dying so often and not being able to figure it out, or figuring it out and not being able to execute it, I would have been like, I suck at this. Like, I give up. This is stupid. And I just would have felt so bad about myself. And now I'm just like, I have little whispers of it, but I'm mostly just like, all right, I'll take a break for a few days. And then, what do you know? I'm recording the podcast and I'm like, gosh, maybe just one more run. So, yeah.
It makes me wonder, this is a critical point that you alluded to, which is like, certain games really maybe are only successful in the context of their time. So like imagine if Hades or Returnal came out 5 years ago and exactly as they are now, miraculously. Like we know that's impossible, but like imagine if a game was like so ahead of its time that it was this amazing accomplishment, but the world wasn't really cozied up to the idea of why brutal roguelikes are fun. Would Hades have been game of the year, or would it have been like, whoa, this is hard. This game's really hard. Oh, well, on to the next game. You know what I mean?
Beats me. I mean, sometimes I'm tempted, like now at this point, I'm tempted to play Souls just to see how it compares to the difficult things I've played.
Yeah.
Like in the past. I know for a fact that none of them are probably even a shadow of how difficult Souls is. But like, if you look at the discussion online around Returnal, I mean, all everyone talks about is how hard it is. But I don't know that it's hard because of its basic gameplay. I think it's hard because of the idea that you have to, with a few very small exceptions, play a complete run from start to finish, from biome 1 to biome 4, and somehow survive and finish it. So, I mean, that has its own kind of appeal. I think that's a certain kind of hard. But I think Souls is more about like the bosses, right? Like,
yeah, as I understand it.
The bosses are the big, like, oh, fuck, like, I'm so screwed.
And it makes me also think it's a bit of a bummer to be like, I love like you said, I love everything about Returnal. Hades is beautiful. It's an amazing game. I look at Sekiro and say, like, if I was going to do a Souls, like, that might be the one. It's so cool,
so gorgeous.
But like, if I'm just not good enough to get past boss number 3, I will never see the rest of this game. You know what I mean? Like, it's what a disappointment to because like in a lot of other games, I think about a Monster Hunter. It's like you have to be mechanically good at Monster Hunter to be successful. But even if you're not great at it, you can just do the same fight 60 times and then get armor that will allow you to survive in the next fight in the bigger dragon. That's not a thing in these other games. So like, that's why the grindy games appeal to me, because I know if I love this game, I can get to the place, I can get satisfaction out of it. But if I love Sekiro, I may physically be unable to get to enjoy the rest of the game. And that's a bit of a, I don't know what to call it. It's just, it's a sadness there. That it's something that you really enjoy cannot be overcome. And given your love of Returnal, I hope that you can.
Let me tell you, I've seen videos of later biomes and been like, oh, there's no fucking way. But when we first got Pistol Whip in this house, and I would watch my husband play it on hard.
Yeah.
I said, oh, there's no fucking way.
No fucking way.
And now I play that shit like with my eyes closed. So I'm like, you know what? You cannot assume. I mean, you could assume, but I'm not going to assume. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. That's great. That's a great life lesson there, fellow gamers. What else is going on? What else? You have alluded to something that you might be playing, and I don't know if you actually jumped in or not, but I'm hoping you have. What else do you have to talk about?
So I randomly discovered everyone in our group was talking about that really beautiful kind of 16-bit aesthetic game. Do you remember what the name of that was? We were talking about it in the video game channel, but it just came out this past week, and like everyone was really excited about it.
Everyone in our world,
yes,
but
sorry,
also
in our Discord. I'm actually scrolling back right now, trying to see if I can find anybody mentioning it.
No, it's Eastward. I'm saying
yes,
the world
Eastward.
has gone. The world has gone gaga for Eastward.
So,
and
I was looking at everybody's talk, and I was like, okay, well, I'm probably going to try this. This is very up my alley, you know. And I had it like pulled up on Steam, and then, you know, as you do, I looked to my right and I was like, huh, what's that game? ADD. And so I found a game that is spelled TOEM. I don't know if it's pronounced TOEM or TOEM.
Yep.
But it caught my eye firstly because it's in black and white, which is, you know, obviously something you almost never see. Like, I can't tell you the last time I saw a black and white game, but I think it was maybe on the Wii. Like, surely others have existed. But it's a photo adventure. It's what its little subtitle is. Set off on a delightful expedition and use your photographic eye to uncover the mysteries of the magical TOEM in this hand-drawn adventure game. So everything in it is hand-drawn. And it's like... it is the definition of a wholesome game. Like, you know, that Twitter account, Wholesome Games. I love that account. But like, yeah, all you do is you're in a town. You start in a town. A relative gives you a camera. I don't even know what you are. You're some sort of cute little gelfling elf kind of looking thing with a hat on. Like,
yeah, not quite an animal.
Yeah,
it's
you're not
like
really
Animal
an animal. Like, I don't really know what you are, but like, you know, it's got that loving feeling of like, you know, something that someone has drawn every single thing that you're playing. So that to me is always just super charming. But you know, it's a combat-free game. Like, you know, you start by being in your hometown and getting the camera, and then you take a bus, and the bus goes to a new town, and you get to the town. And you have a little, what they call a community card. And so as you walk around, you get little quests from people, and they're very quirky. You know, it's not like, hey, go kill 5 rat monsters and come back. It's like, you know, I can't find my dog. Like, his collar looks like this. Like, what do I do? Or like right before the podcast, I played it a little, and I got to a puzzle where there's a bridge. It's like lifted up in the middle, and on one side is the son crying, and on the other side is the mom, and he's like, I can't get to my mom, and his mom's like, sweetie, it's okay, and I'm like, oh my god, this is pure. So I have to figure out with my camera, I guess, like how to help them. You know, so sometimes like you'll take pictures of things and then like bring the picture to someone, and the picture will be like a proof that you saw it or something they're looking for. Like, oh, like I heard there's a monster in the woods. Can you see if you can take a picture of it? Like stuff like that. It's just super, super charming and like kind of unlike anything else I've played. Like it's you know, it's an indie game. It has like strong indie spirit, but I guess like if you liked Pokemon Snap, if you like taking pictures of things in games, like you would probably like it, I guess. But it had really high reviews from IGN and Eurogamer. And so I was like, what is this? And I started playing it and just kind of like loved it right away. And then like when you're playing it, you get to hear like different little songs like that musicians wrote, and they give like the credits of like who the musician is and what the song is called, like every time they play a song. So you like get to discover new music too. It's precious. It's just precious. So I've only played about 2 hours, I think. But, and one more thing that I really, really love about it is that there's lots of places to sit. And so like you can just sit in a beautiful place and like take in your surroundings and listen to the nice music. And you can take some photos with your camera. I mean, yeah, it's a very chill experience. So if you're like, I really want a nice casual experience, this would be a really good call. Also, I read that it's a short experience. So I think some of the reviewers said that like you won't spend more than 10 hours playing it. And honestly, sometimes I feel like that's really nice. Like I'm like, ooh, that's nice. Like I won't spend forever on it, but like I'll get to enjoy this sweet little world for a while. And just now I was looking at the reviews and one review literally just says, just a little guy going around being a pal. I was like, that's the game. Just a little guy going around being a pal.
The charm is there. You've sold me. You've got me. But my question remains: like mechanically, how would you describe this? Is it a puzzle game? Is it a hidden pictures game? Like,
it is an adventure game with puzzle solving elements in that when you talk to people, you kind of have to solve puzzles for them to move forward. Or sometimes you're not talking to people. Sometimes you're talking to ghosts, because there's ghosts too. But like, yeah.
and are these are the puzzles? Because I just my hesitation in getting this one was I'm not a puzzle guy, so like. Are these the puzzles that are like, oh, okay, wait, this and then oh great, I figured it out. I feel smart, but I'm not feeling tested. I'm not feeling blocked by a mechanic.
Well, I don't feel blocked per se, but like right before the podcast, I was playing a bit and I got to a new town that has lots of stuff going on. So I got some quests and then like I looked around and I was like, gosh, I really don't know how to solve some of these. And so I would have to report back on like if that's something I ended up banging my head against. But like I feel like it's not like going to be it's too pleasant of a game.
Yeah, like, right. That's my
to be like, let's make you suffer. Like that doesn't make sense. You know?
Have you seen or played this game called Minute, MINIT, which is also in black and white?
I have not.
Check it out. It is a very Game Boy Zelda-esque experience. It's super lo-fi pixel, but very cute, very wholesome. But the hook there is that the world resets every 60 seconds. So you only have 60 seconds to find things, make progress, accomplish something. I think, acquiring items or moving certain things in the world will affect it. So it's like, oh, okay, I pushed this barrel and uncovered the sword and now the game's over. Back to the beginning, but now I have the sword, kind of thing. That time loop kind of a thing. And I'm only mentioning it because I think it's really great. And it has some aesthetic similarities to however we're pronouncing this, TOEM,
TOEM. I don't know.
TOEM. I like TOEM. But it is a pretty hardcore puzzle game, I guess, with a time mechanic. It's not it doesn't really lend itself to being a chill game. It's more of a like, oh, I got it. Okay, if I do this, then I could do this, and shit, 60 seconds. Try again. Try it a different way,
Nice.
you know, kind of a thing. And it's not intense. It's you know, but it's one of those games that I really admired and respected and enjoyed. Did not finish because probably hit a wall somewhere and couldn't get past.
Sure.
So that's why I was asking about this. Is it that, or is it more chill? And maybe we'll find out more from you in the coming days.
Yeah, it felt so chill. It's hard for me to really genuinely imagine that it would get like, you know, rough. But I mean, yeah, I'll have to report back. At the moment, pretty awesome.
And you are playing on Steam, but this is also available for Switch, and it seems like a good cozy
it's a
option there
very
too.
Switch like cozy up in your favorite chair in bed game. Yep. Absolutely, yep. Like with your Switch for sure.
Yep. All right, keep me posted because I think you've got me. You got me 80% there.
Hey, that's pretty good. You're a skeptic.
I am. Eastward is good. Is a must play. A must play for me personally, and I think you're going to be in that camp as well.
Oh, I'm sure I will be.
And I'm really right now debating which platform to get it on, because by all accounts, all footage I have watched, all reviews, all chatter, people are saying yes, it really runs super solid on Switch. No drama, no problems there. And in my sort of Venn diagram of like, where will I purchase the game that I want to play? It's like, do I want to hop in and out? Is it cozy? Do I want to play it on the couch while my wife was watching TV? You know, yes. Does it like run like shit on Switch? No. Deal breaker. Gonna go over to Steam and get it there. And so I'm not ready to play it yet, but when I do, I think I will go Switch. It sounds like it is solid there, but it looks and sounds spectacular, and all the chatter online is like, this is really something special, and I'm excited to play it, full stop. But I'm also excited maybe we will end up playing it at a similar time, and that will be really fun as well.
Yeah. Like I think like my guess is that if I don't for some reason decide that I'm not enjoying TOEM anymore, that I will probably pick that up next. So I'm guessing by the time we talk next week, I probably will be playing it by then.
All right, great.
Because I don't think this is going to last a super, super long time. And I also know that I can't play Returnal for hours at a time because I'll like die.
Right. So Returnal has a breaking point. TOEM is like, that's, if you even finish it, that's 10 hours tops. You're going to need something.
Right. Definitely. Exactly.
Something's coming.
It's literally like a drug fix. I'm like, oh my God, I'm out of game. Someone get me a game. Game in the vein, please.
A game in the vein, and it's got to be the good stuff, you know?
Nothing less will do.
I've been addicted for 35 years.
I was about to say, if you've been a junkie for this long, like you really, you can't be like, you know what I need in my veins right now? Waves of death.
We're going to get there. Briefly, I'll share what I have been enjoying, and I'll start out by asking a few questions to you. One, do you enjoy this game that some people like to call The Legend of Zelda?
Oh, yes. I have heard of it.
You've heard of it. Okay, cool. Okay, so you like that. Do you also like this other game? I don't know. Some people have been talking about it. Stardew Valley. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it right.
Yes, you are pronouncing it correctly. I do believe. Cool. Yes, that is an acceptable game as well.
Okay, you like that game. Okay, what if those two games were combined? And also, were you telling me? It's not Rakuten. That's the affiliate network that we all know and love.
You're thinking about Laura Shigehara's game, Rakuen. Very close.
Is that a shop? Is that the shopkeeping game, or am I thinking of something else?
No, it is very much like a 16-bit top-down RPG with all of the heart of like a Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana. Okay. It is a literal delight.
Which might be more akin to the Eastward conversations, but we digress. So I have had my eye on a game called Moonlighter for a long time. It came into early access in like 2018, probably got finished up in 2019, somewhere around there, got some DLC, and has been it's been around and been enjoyed. Do you have any reference point for this at all before I go on?
Nope, nothing.
Not at all. Interesting.
0.
And I think the criticisms of it early were that it was like really cool, has a lot of potential, but may have been too simple or too shallow or whatever, not a lot of meat on the bones. And I think it has matured since then. It came to Switch. I think it's coming to it is out on mobile devices as well at this point. And I was in the market for a Switch game because, as I mentioned previously, Spiritfarer, I just did not love everything about Spiritfarer. I could not get behind the way it was running on Switch. I just
right.
I loved the game too much to play it there. So I'm moving that to PC and then saying, well, I still want a game. The Spiritfarer hooked me right away because it's like, oh, right, okay, upgrade your boat and get the materials and add stuff here and grind for this. And I was like, shit, I want to play this now, but I don't want Spiritfarer here. I want something like that. And I don't know if it just popped up or if I was scrolling back through other notes I had made, but I was like, you know what? I always want to try Moonlighter. I now have space in my Switch zone for Moonlighter, and it was you could grab the base game with the DLC as one package. Great, got it. And so I'm making those two comparisons because Moonlighter is a shopkeeper game, but with dungeon crawling together, and it is mechanically a wonderful game. I really, really like it because the loop is you run a shop, and in order to stock the shop with merchandise, you have to go into a Zelda dungeon. The game is 2D. I would say 16-bit pixel sprites, but the dungeons are structured very much like randomized NES Legend of Zelda dungeons. They are individual rectangles. So you go into room 1, and then there's a door up, left, and right. You go left, zip, you're in the next room. So you go room by room, and you are fighting various enemies. You're unlocking treasure chests. You are and everything you encounter drops materials and goodies that you collect in a pack, in like a giant backpack. You then take everything that you have acquired back to the town, and the town is sort of in disrepair. There's no other shops open, and you slowly you sell items to gain gold to then upgrade your own shop, but also unlock the forge and the potion maker and the banker and the decoration shop and all these other things that you can then leverage to get better weapons, make your town stronger. And there's like I want to say 5 or 6 dungeons, or maybe it's 4 dungeons with a 5th dungeon that's like the ultimate dungeon that you have to clear the other ones first to unlock. And as you might suspect, every dungeon gets proceedingly more challenging, but also the loot gets better, which then allows you to get better weapons and potions, which then allows you to go deeper in the dungeon. And so that is the core loop. But what is special about the game is the shopkeeping mechanics, which are you come back from a dungeon run and you set all your merchandise out on the tables in the shop, and you actually don't know how much to sell something for. So it's like a metal rod, whatever, and you're like, all right, is this 60 gold or is this 600 gold? You have no reference point unless you're cheating and you're looking in the wiki. And that spoils the fun. So you place it out and you're like, all right, I guess this will be 60 gold. And then you open the shop, and customers of the shop start walking in, and you have to watch them react to the prices of the items. And so a customer will walk over to the metal rod, and they'll walk up to the 60, and they'll be like, ugh, there'll be like a big frowny face, and they'll be like, no way, I'm not buying this shit. And then they move on, and you're like, okay, great. So in your log that that automatically updates, you see, okay, 60 is way too expensive for this item. It's a frowny face. So you go, you run over to the item and you say, all right, let's bring it down to 30. So you set that up. It's priced at 30. You go back to the counter. A new customer walks in. They look at, they're like, 30? This is the best price ever. And their eyes light up and they're like, yes, I got a great deal. And they grab it, they buy it, they check out, you make 30 gold. What that tells you is you have a satisfied customer, you made money, but you underpriced it. You could have made more from this item. So it's logged in your book, and now you have the low price and the high price. And your goal then is the next time you get this item from the dungeon, price it, try to find the happy medium where customers will buy it, but you're not losing money. And there's other mechanics where certain items will be in high demand. So even though the price is normally 50, customers are willing to pay 70 because it's a high demand item. And these are not like dynamic things. It's not like, oh, the more you sell, the lower the demand. I think it's just random, but it's a fun way to say like, oh, this item's hot right now. Let me jack up the price and try to squeeze as much money out of the customers without pissing them off. It is this perfect mechanical marriage between dungeon loot gathering, Zelda-like combat, and I hesitate to call it a mini game. It's really not. It's half the game is maintaining your shop and upgrading it, and it is also that that the satisfaction of doing both of those things and earning the money to then unlock new upgrades in the town. Again, very similar to Stardew Valley. It's like I got to water my crops by hand. Well, now I can afford to craft and buy a sprinkler. That's the other thing is you can sell everything in the dungeon, but you actually need to hang on to some of the materials to craft better weapons and enchantments. And there's actually a really nice variety of weapons, very similar to Hades, even though this game predates Hades. The sword and shield, the broadsword, the spear, the gloves, the bow and arrow. You can take two weapons into the dungeon at any given time, and you sort of figure out the play style that works for you, and then upgrade that weapon tree accordingly. And so you're kind of hunting in the dungeons, and then you're like, oh, I'm getting all this loot, and then I gotta I actually need this material to upgrade my sword. So I'm wish listing that, I'm starring it, and then when I bring it back, I'm not selling it because I got to bring it to the forge to make sure that I get that upgraded sword. And then the other thing that is actually really compelling is that your backpack has a limited amount of space. So there's a few mechanics that go on in the dungeons. One is once your backpack is maxed out, you can keep going to try to like conquer the dungeon, but you cannot continue to hold the loot. So what you can do is you get this like magic mirror that sort of zaps some of the loot that you have in your backpack, and you're not going to get the full price for it that you would in the shop. You're actually getting significantly less, but you can sort of like zap it and make a bit of gold to then make room in your backpack for more valuable loot that you happen to come across. But more than that, there is a kind of a mini game of inventory management where certain items of loot have, I guess they're called curses, where it's like, this item can only be stored at the top or bottom of your bag. This item will destroy the item next to it when you leave the dungeon. This item removes one curse from another item in your bag when you place it in your bag. And so what happens is you start filling up your bag and you're like, oh, okay, I just quickly shoved a bunch of loot in my bag, but now I have to stop and look in there and be like, okay, I need to move this to the top, and I need to move this to the side, and I need to move this to the edge so it doesn't destroy this very valuable thing when I leave. And then you're like, okay, great, everything's packed up, great, okay, good, proceed in the dungeon. Because if you die, you drop everything you've collected except the items at the top of your pack, which I guess are sort of like, oh, you're holding those on your, in your pockets, sort of, but everything in your backpack falls out when you die. So there's always this risk reward of like, I can go a little deeper in the dungeon and see what's next, or I can cash out. And you have,
just like gambling.
You're constantly weighing risk, which is, again, mechanically, this game could have just been like, get loot, sell loot, get loot, sell loot, upgrade, sell loot. But there's always a risk balancing, backpack maneuvering thing that you are constantly doing before you go into the next room. Like, you clear the enemies, then you're like, whew, okay, check the pack, make sure everything's good. Do I want to go further? And there are two ways to leave the dungeon safely, which is also very interesting. One is an inexpensive way to zap yourself back to the town, and you're safe, sell your stuff, great. But then when you go back to the dungeon, you have to start it over again. There's a second way that's more of like a town portal Diablo thing, where you create a portal at great expense. You spend a lot more gold to make it. Come back to town, dump your stuff, go back through the portal, pick up exactly where you left off, so you can then advance through the dungeon. And what happens is you really need to spend on those portals if you have any hope of conquering the dungeon, because I can't get to dungeon 3 until I have fully conquered dungeon 2. And it's very hard to do it in one run. Like, when you go back to town, you get all your life back, you can buy more potions, you can upgrade your weapons, and then go back where you left off and fight that boss. And that is a really good strategy. You just need to save up enough cash to do it. Again, constant balancing, constant risk reward, that makes it mechanically very interesting. And then there's something really satisfying. Like, you play a game like a looter game or whatever, and you're like, you kill an enemy and you get gold, and it's like, all right, I got to get a lot of gold. And that's one layer of like, kill stuff, get gold. We all love it. But there is something about kill stuff, get materials, sort the materials, put them in different boxes, set them out, set the prices, make your customers happy, and then cash out like 36,000 gold after one day of keeping the shop open. That's like,
satisfying,
that was
hell.
It's so satisfying. Like, you're like, I brought my haul from the dungeon and I brought it all back, and I set it up in the perfect way, and I was really diligent about like, okay, a customer, because you have a limited amount of time in a business day to sell everything. So you have to make sure the prices are good, and that when stuff gets bought, you instantly put something else on the shelf, because you have limited shelf space. And also, don't keep your customers waiting, because if they wait in line too long, they will leave and only pay half price or something like that. So it's like, cash out your customers, put new stuff on the shelf, check the prices, make sure it's all good. Oh, by the way, thieves can come into the store. So like, you got to watch them very carefully. And if they steal stuff, you got to chase them, tackle them, get your stuff back. Again, so that second half of the game, which is the shopkeeping, it's so silly to call it a mini game, because it's not. It's like, it's literally half the game. That it's called Moonlighter. That's what the whole point of it is. Like, you are a shopkeeper, but you moonlight as an adventurer. And then they're married so beautifully together. And I have two criticisms. One is the town is super static. So like, this would be a next level, like 10 out of 10 experience if you had like story or personal relationship elements with the townsfolk or the other shopkeepers. So as it stands now, it's literally just upgrade them, buy the potions you need, go into the dungeon. Like there are no relationships or stories happening
Okay.
in the town. It's not a knock against it, but I guess what I'm saying is like if you had Stardew level relationship building, this would be a legendary game that would probably be more popular than it is.
Right.
And that's a knock. And then my other criticism is that I don't know why a 2D pixel art game runs really poorly on the Switch in the town, which fortunately the town is just like, get my potions, check this thing. Okay, great. Back to the dungeon. And the dungeons run great. I have no complaints, or there's no performance issues in the dungeons. That would really suck in combat if you were, if the Switch was dropping frames. I don't know what's wrong with the town area. I think there's I have been reading online, there is a memory leak. So like, I think the game, like as the game runs, it constantly demands more and more memory from the system.
Oh.
And then you have to like save your game, shut it off, start the game over, and then it sort of fixes that. It's not great.
Okay.
But I'm forgiving it. I'm forgiving that because the main loop of the game does not happen in the town. Therefore, I'm going to look past it and continue playing. But if you are a purist and this game sounds appealing to you, perhaps Steam is a better option. Also, I believe it is on iOS and coming to Android, and they have done all sorts of optimization there as well, it sounds like. So anyway, Moonlighter is a mechanically wonderful game if you like those loops.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. I had never heard of it, and I think it could be something that I could definitely like.
Yeah. Check it out if you are so inclined. Add it to the wish list, or at the very least, perhaps.
Or I could play it on my phone with my cool new phone controller that I'm about to get in the mail.
That's right. Yeah, that's a private transaction between us. Perhaps we'll talk about it in the future. All right. I logged into Steam today and saw that you have played 88 minutes of Waves of Death.
It seems like a lot, right? But what happened was I think I played like 2 or 3 rounds and was like, okay, what is happening? Because like for instance, there's no instructions to tell you, for instance, like this is a stationary shooter. So like the first time I played, I literally spent 5 straight minutes trying to figure out why I couldn't move.
Why can't I walk? It's so
right.
weird.
And I was like, why can't I walk? I was like, this is so weird. I was like, is something the matter with my controller? Is something the matter with my like? So then I shut it down and then I picked it back up.
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh, this is a game in which you don't move. But how did I figure that out? I figured that out only by going into the reviews of the game and someone going, oh, it's a stationary shooter. And I'm like, well, that's nice to know.
I'm so glad you had mentioned that. You played it before I did. You mentioned it to me because if I had gone into that, I would have had the same reaction as you, but I would have been much more upset. Like, what the fuck is wrong with my computer? What the fuck is wrong with my controller? So I knew I had that knowledge going in, but that's all I had because I had not seen you play it. So you play it, you dabbled, and then you also shared your live gameplay in Discord.
Yes, and actually, that's reminding me that's the reason why I played it for so long, because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play this in the Discord, and like I played it in the Discord for a little while, and I was like, okay. This is happening. And then like, I think later on, like I probably would have given up around this point. Someone or a couple people came into the Discord and hung out and we like laughed about it a lot. And so that was really, yeah.
Describe what is happening in this game.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. So you are a guy. And the reason why I know that you are a guy is because of the stuff you yell, which I'll get to in a minute. But so you're standing at this juncture in what appears to be like a subway area.
Yeah.
And there's like a staircase going down to your right. And then facing forward, you're seeing like some tracks, and you have a couple different areas in which you're going to see zombies of different types come at you. And when I say different types, I mean like maybe 4. I think there's like a woman, there's like a fat man, there was a fat woman, which I was like, oh, hey, how about that? But I don't know if that really is a lot of credit, considering that all you do is just shoot her over and over. Yeah. So the way you subsist is that when ammo is dropped, health is dropped, you have to shoot it on the ground in order to pick it up, which, not being a shooter person, I did not really know that. So it took me a few times to like,
why would you know? Okay.
Why would I know that? I mean, no one told me.
In every video game ever made on planet Earth, if you need to acquire an item, you walk up to it and acquire it. And some games
can't do that.
Just zoop. It just comes into you.
Because
in some games you got to press a button.
I've never played a game where you don't move. I've never played a game where you're doing things, but your feet never move. Like that is like, I've played on rail shooters, but but you're moving.
Okay, but name one other game ever where it's like, oh, there's health over there, there's ammo over there. How do I get it? I shoot the health to get the health. I shoot it with my gun. Why? Because I can't move.
Well, the sad thing was that while I was trying to figure all this out, like no one was in the Discord while I was streaming it. So I was like, oh, what a bummer that like no one gets to see this, madness. And then like by the time people came in, I like knew what I was doing better, and I was like, oh, well, shit. Okay, I guess. But yeah, so we all kind of made fun of it for a little while. But so to get to the big point, this is a very, very, very simple game. You survive 3 quote unquote waves of death. And then after surviving 3, you're supposed to fight like a boss kind of creature. Or no, actually, I think you survived the 3 and then you would load into the boss part, maybe. But what happened was after I survived 3 rounds, the game froze. And so I never got to get to that part. And let me tell you, I was not about to be like, yeah, let me do all that again. Like, no, I don't care. Like, I don't care enough about that at all.
Because that first level is challenging. I was not really able to overcome more than 1 wave, I don't think.
Yeah, it took me a minute to get to 3 waves. But anyway, to the point, I think that perhaps the most startling / memorable moment of Waves of Death was literally the first time that the guy that you're playing is like, yeah, take that, cunt. And I was like, good Lord. I don't know if I've ever played a game with that word in it before. And I have played decades upon decades of video games. I mean, I don't play like porn games. And maybe if I had played porn games, I would hear that word more often. I'm very neutral about the word. Like, I think it's kind of an ugly word, but I'm also not one of those people that's like, oh my God, like, don't ever breathe that word around me. But I mostly was just like, okay. Okay. And he has 2 different moments which he yells that word in tandem with something about the zombies. And like, I was like, I don't even know how to explain the emotions I had. It wasn't, I guess I was like partially amused, partially like appalled.
I felt so
partially like, what else is he gonna say?
Yeah. Just wait. I knew I couldn't. This could not be on a screen anywhere near anyone in my family.
Oh no,
a child,
no.
Even like, I would have to explain to my wife, oh, like I'm not actually playing this. This is the point of this is this. But like, so I'm like alone in my office, like making sure whatever. And the voice, it's like these shouted voice lines, but they sound like it's trying to be like, yeah, this is badass. Like, do you
Exactly.
know like Duke Nukem?
Yeah.
You know, like Duke Nukem 3D, where it was like, oh, I'm so awesome, I'm
Right.
so vulgar.
Yes.
It feels like it wants to be that, but the voice lines sound, I don't know how to explain this. They sound like they're out of a voice library. It doesn't sound like a character.
Perfect.
It doesn't sound like an actor was like, oh, I'm here to play this character.
Oh no.
It sounds like
a stock voice.
Like a stock voices from an audio library. And why? Maybe this exists. Maybe there are audio libraries of video game assets.
Maybe there's audio libraries of video game assets where the player screams, "Take that, cunt!"
These motherfuckers are ugly. But it's like it's not like, I guess, like in a world where this actor was directed and the voice sounds like it was native to the environment, then maybe you could get away with like a I'm so badass kind of a game. But I can't. It's very hard to put into words like the way the voice sounds. I thought it was like a sound effect, like, you know, like in an arcade game, like in an old arcade game. I don't know, like almost like NBA Jam, where it's like, yeah, jams it in. Like they're like sort of like, not ambient. They're like triggered sound effects that signify something happened in the game, and you sort of know in your mind, like, oh, that's not the character saying it. That's not the player saying it. That's just sort of like buzzers and bells and whistles going off, but they are voice samples. I thought that's what this was. And then the more I played it, I'm like, oh, are they trying to make it so that this is you, the character, saying like, yeah, motherfucker, take that, you fucking cunt. Like, that's when like my whole body cringed, like every fiber of me felt cringe, of course, at the same time.
Of course. Yeah, because what else would you feel? Like, what else is there to feel? But like, it's interesting because like my reaction wasn't just the cringe and nothing else. Like, I don't even really know how to explain like the gamut of different feelings. It was like I said, it was like I was appalled, I was amazed, I was I was amused, I was like, and then I was like, what else is he gonna say?
Right. Yeah. I will say the not moving aside, which is a choice, but also like I could see a game. It's not tower defense, but it's like you are stationary for some meaningful reason and you have to protect an asset or a flag or something. Like games like that do exist in different forms.
Sure.
But this is a first person shooter that, like, you know, graphically, fidelity wise, frame rate, it looks pretty good. So like to your point, you jump into this zombie world and your first instinct is like, all right, let's go.
Right.
Let's go. Let's shoot.
When have you ever fought a zombie and not moved?
So it ends up being like, oh shit, the zombies are coming. Let me stand here and not do anything. So like the setting and the mechanical, the setting and the story, I'm putting that in air quotes, are not compatible with the gameplay. You know, they're not connected. But again, like it's pretty snappy. It actually, I set out to play it with a controller. I think Steam's like, yep, controller support, but you can't control the menus with a controller. So you need to like do mouse and keyboard. I did it all
with my mouse and keyboard.
Right. And then I hop in and there's no settings. So the controller is like ultra sensitive. So like you're zipping all over the place with the crosshair. Like you can't you can't actually shoot anything with a controller. It's not feasible. So I was like, oh, right, this is probably like a mouse and keyboard. And I was like, okay, great. And then once you're with mouse and keyboard, it's very snappy. I don't play a lot of shooters, so I'm sure the Apex Legendses and the Counter-Strikes of the world are much better. The gunplay is better than this. But like, I don't know, you start with some sort of machine gun and you're blasting zombies. Like, that would be fine,
right?
If you could move,
right?
You know, I don't know I didn't know what to expect, but then realize, right? You told me, okay, you can't move. I'm like, okay, right, can't move. You realize it when both sticks on the controller look around. Like, left stick does not walk. Left stick also looks around, like, and you're like, what the?
Oh, okay.
But then you start seeing health hearts and ammo packs appear, and you're like, what? How do I get those? I can't move. Do I shoot them? Yep. Okay, I shoot the health to get the health. Got it.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
All of that.
This game is fucking
that
crazy.
Is exactly what it was. It's like, wait, I don't. Like, there needed to be explanation, but obviously with a game that's so rudimentary, it's like, okay, you're not going to get explanation of, here's what you do to, do this, like, here's what you do to do this. You're not going to get that.
It makes me wonder a lot about game development, because it's like, here is obviously a very half-baked, also ran idea, like a zombie shooter. Okay. What else is new? And also you can't move. So like, it's very simplistic. But again, whoever made this has enough development experience or gathered enough like out of the box Unity or Unreal assets where it's like, maybe they just like bought a bunch of stock zombie animations, dropped them into a first person shooter like template, and then added, fuck you, motherfucker, voice lines. And then that was a game. And here it is on Steam, $10. There's like an upgrade system or something where you can buy new guns or whatever. But like, I guess my point is like, how does a person or a developer with a very half-baked idea create a pretty polished looking game that doesn't work at all, but like looks and sounds pretty. I can't make this. How can someone make this but not make it good? I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking here, but it's very interesting.
I was just enjoying where you were going. You were like, how could you just do this? But it's bad.
How could a bad thing exist? But like, I don't know. I guess it's like, it would be the same thing as like, I bought a very expensive camera and then I pointed it at actors who were bad, who read bad lines. And now I made a movie. It's technically a movie. It does all the things that movies do, but it's not. No one would want to watch this movie because it is a bad movie.
How many people do that every day? Someone's doing that right now.
Absolutely. So I guess I'm answering my own question, but it's okay. Maybe what I'm saying is, I made a movie and the cinematography is spectacular, but the story and acting are horrifying. Why? You know what? How did the good cinematographer sign up to work on a bad movie?
I think that all of this can be summed up in a Tumblr comment that I saw, or rather a Tumblr post, a very short post that I saw several days ago, and it was so legendary that I screen capped just these two lines so I could keep it, because I was like, I'm not really sure if there's better inspiration than this. So it says,
and this is something only a Tumblr reblog comment can achieve. This is a singular art form that you are describing.
So it's two lines. The first line says, me, like I'm saying, me, my writing is so bad, frown face. Meanwhile, at Disney, somehow Palpatine has returned. And I was like, holy shit. But that's not the only time I've ever thought that. When I was writing my novel, I was so worried about perfect continuity. I was so worried about making sure that all the intentions of the characters match so well. So I was like, let me research some like plot structures, some popular plots. Almost every wildly popular media form out there, or not media form, franchise, with the exception of Lord of the Rings, which is like incredibly well researched and does not have plot holes, like
Yes.
all the way, Tolkien, you rock. But like Star Wars, Star Trek, The X-Files, like just name it. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. There are giant plot holes in it, all of it. And yet those franchises make billions of dollars a year. So like, should I be super worried about the fact that my little novel might have one or two parts where like everything doesn't perfectly close? I guess not, because it clearly doesn't matter for Disney.
Most people don't care about plot holes. And that's fine. You as an author, as a creator, you should care about them. You should work to make it as airtight as it can be.
Yeah, and I will, but like you can't help but be humored. And like before reading that legendary Tumblr that I'll keep forever, my old one was no matter how bad what you think what you're writing is, it's better than 50 Shades of Grey.
But what we're talking about is not specifically plot holes. The Palpatine thing is just bad storytelling.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible storytelling. It's terrible. It's like, really? That's what you came up with? Really?
Yeah. That is so funny. Like it really
I really thought about like, first I was like, could I letter this? Then I was like, could I like take, because it's tiny. I was like, let me like see if I could like open a program and like write it in like a, like a type kind of font, typewriter looking font, and like have it put on a shirt. Like that's how amused I was.
It's because
somehow it's the word somehow. That's the one that gets me every time.
That's
somehow.
Exactly what it is.
Somehow.
Because it's as if it was a screenshot of the first draft of the script. And it's like, we don't know how he returns. We just know that somehow he has to return. And that's our movie, because that's what it's going to be, guys. Come on.
That's it. That's the movie.
Oh man, we don't have time to just talk about like how every time I walked out of the theater of the Star Wars sequels, I don't know what the best way to call them is, but the later trilogy, I walked out of the theater each time saying, "Yeah, Star Wars is back."
Yep.
And then 2 days later, I kept thinking about the movies, and then was like, "Oh man." I mean, it was fun. I liked watching it, but
they captured the fun. They absolutely captured the fun, and they captured some excellent performances. But
yeah, the cast is great. As a writer,
it blows my mind how often you're like, that story doesn't work. That doesn't work. What you just did, like it doesn't work.
Or it does work, but so much of it was like, right, okay. We're creating a mirror image. We're creating a flipped image of 4, 5, and 6, and I appreciate that there are parallels and that there are thematic lines and connections to be drawn with the original trilogy. I like that, and I appreciate that. But like, do that amid a completely fresh and new story. They just layered the same characters and storyline on top of the carbon copy image of the original trilogy.
Yep.
So much so that the big bad at the end was somehow
he's back.
Palpatine. That's right.
Yeah, I remember like watching the first movie and also getting that same feeling of like woohoo,
Yeah.
And then like leaving, and like same for me, but like in a few hours I remember kind of slowly sinking in and me going, that was actually Star Wars well, at the time I thought it was 1, but that was actually the original Star Wars that I just watched.
Wait, did I just rewatch 4? Is it just the beats of 4 on a different planet with different?
It's exactly the beats of 4. And so like I thought, okay, well, I can understand that could kind of be like an homage, but like there were certain moments where I was like, oh, that's almost too close, you know? And I think like, in the second movie, I kind of felt like, they were finding some of their own stuff. Anyway, you're right. This could be literally one entire episode, so I'm not gonna talk about it anymore.
I'm interested in rewatching them. I've only seen each one once the theater, and I would like to watch them all again at home now with all the knowledge and see what's what. And the last thing that I will share that I'll say about this stuff is that I fucking love the interstitial movies. Rogue One is a perfect and extraordinary Star Wars film, top to bottom, story-wise, but also like it feels and looks so good as a Star Wars movie. And then I need to go back and rewatch it, but like, I don't know why people shit on Solo. I thought Solo was great and walked out of the theater being like, yeah, this is such a cool ass movie. And then woke up a week later and was like, no, I still think it's great. I still like Solo because it didn't have to do anything. It didn't have to tell the Skywalker saga. It didn't have to tie up loose ends. It just had to be a kick-ass heist gambler Lando is here movie. And it did that. Love it. And I hope that it still is good when I watch it again. Did you get to see that one?
I didn't, and I meant to. So actually hearing this from you is reminding me that that's something I need to get back to. But I have heard similarly positive things about it on the whole. And I think even if you turn your attention over to something like The Mandalorian, like I've really enjoyed The Mandalorian. I think it's very well written, but it hasn't had to interact with the original characters up until you see Luke in the end of the second season. And I mean, that could go haywire. That could be terrible, but that could also be good. I don't know,
right. Yeah,
but
right.
I mean,
what they're going to do with that.
I almost feel like it's like, when you're trying to replicate, I think that the part of it that's tough is trying to replicate the original experience. I think that makes it really hard because if you're trying to replicate the original experience, you do not leave yourself any room to be original. That's my opinion.
I 100% agree with you. And also like, don't replicate the original. Build on it, expand on it. There have been so many novels and games and TV shows.
Many of them are quite good. The novels,
they're
especially.
Quite good.
Yeah.
Yes, they're quite good. So when it's time to make big movies, Disney, it's time for Disney to come in and up the ante. Why not go into the expanded world? I mean, Mandalorian does this and is successful. Why not do that rather than just? I think you're nailing it. The studio, the writers in the studio, whoever is behind the sequels, is like, how do we recapture and remake the magic of 4, 5, 6? And the answer is no. Don't do that.
Right. Just accept you made 4, 5, and 6. You made a cultural, icon, and it's okay to expand that world and do other things in that world. It's okay. But yeah, it's too much. It's just too much for them to take, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I don't make movies.
Side note. And I hope we're not spoiling things because like Mandalorian's been out a while, and you mentioned a significant spoiler there as well. So I will continue to elaborate on that point. If you have not seen The Mandalorian and plan to, turn your ears off. But we learned on the other show that I produce, which is Two Girls One Podcast, we covered deepfakes, and we interviewed a deepfake artist who was doing extraordinary things on YouTube by turning celebrities into other celebrities or making celebrities say certain things. He worked with a comedian to then do an impression of maybe Trump or something. Anyway, really good deepfakes. Some of the best you've seen. And then I saw a couple months ago, maybe a month or two back, the guy we interviewed had done a deep fake of Luke Skywalker, who appears in The Mandalorian as young post Return of the Jedi Luke, who obviously Mark Hamill does not look like that anymore.
Yep.
So he was CGI'd into The Mandalorian. This YouTuber made a deep fake in that Mandalorian scene, did it better than Disney did, and now works for Lucasfilm.
What?
Because he's better at deep faking Luke Skywalker than fucking Disney and Lucasfilm was. He beat Industrial Light and Magic at doing deep fakes and now works for them.
That
and
is
I was like,
amazing. That is
huzzah.
an amazing story.
Kudos to you, sir.
In fact, I don't want to talk about literally anything else on this podcast. After you finish this, it's the end of the podcast because I don't want to think about anything else other than that tonight.
No, that's where it is.
That's
yeah.
it. That is the end, man.
I saw that headline. I was
what a
like, delight. Good on you.
Love it. Love it.
That's our time. Thank you for entering the chat with us. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And as you heard, come on into the Discord. Link is always in the show notes of this podcast. Come on in there. Tell us what you're playing. Email us at haveenteredthechat@gmail.com. Those are the places where we can all talk together about what's going on in the fantastic world of video games. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate and review it on your podcast platform of choice, if that is a feature there. As always, I will leave you with the final word. Colette?
I was going to say what the guy in Waves of Death says when he's killing people, the C word. And then I was like, nah, that's too gross. So let's just end it on the obvious main theme of this podcast. Somehow, Palpatine has returned.
We will return to you next week.